Officer Mark Landavazo came as a third officer.
And he arrived a little bit after you and yours?
He did.
Had you been to that apartment complex before?
Numerous times.
So you're familiar with the numbers on the sides of the buildings?
Yes.
When you and Officer Enyard arrived, where did you go?
We parked in front of the office, which is just inside of the entrance. Then we walked to the right of our vehicles towards an apartment building where the callers were.
And what was your role at that point?
I was investigating a crime.
So you were primary?
I was primary.
When you arrived, did you go to apartment 407?
I don't remember exactly which apartment I went to right away.
An apartment in building 4? Was it on the first level or second level?
It was on the first level.
How many people were at that apartment?
When I walked in to the doorway area, I saw about 4 people. 2 females and 2 males.
Did you see some injuries on any of them?
Yes, I did. One of the females had injuries to her face.
Was that injury, was she actively bleeding at that moment or not?
She wasn't continuously bleeding, no.
Did you go into the apartment through the threshold or did you stay outside, if you remember?
I might have set 1 foot inside of the doorway just to hold it open, but I didn't walk completely into that apartment, no.
What were you told about what had happened and what did you do with that information?
I was told by a male and female who I thought didn't live at the apartment they were inside of, that they had a friend who had assaulted them, and that friend was back at their apartment, and that they had a young daughter at the apartment as well.
Did that child become a priority for you once you heard that information?
Absolutely.
Did you then, tell us what you did after you received that information?
After I got the information that a child was still in the apartment with somebody dangerous, we immediately went to that apartment.
And did you leave, do you now know that the people you encountered were Victoria Martens and Fabian Gonzales?
Inside of the first apartment, yes.
And when you left them, why did you leave them at 407 by themselves?
Because I had no reason to not leave them there.
At that point, what did you consider them to be?
I thought they were victims at that point.
So tell us about going over to building 8 and apartment 808.
So we began to approach that building complex, and the target apartment was on the 2nd level to the left from the staircase. And as we approached the staircase to go up, I noticed a female came out of the front door and saw us and quickly went right back inside.
Did you have a name for that person when you approached that apartment?
I think her name was Jessica at the time.
And where did you get that information?
I believe it was either from one of the victims at the other apartment.
So she shuts the door.
Yes.
And what did you do at that point?
So we approached the door and try to make contact with her, but she has it locked.
What happened then?
I opened the door a little bit, and I tried to yell inside of the little gap that the door lock left me, and I tried to request that she come out to us.
When you say open the door a little bit and it was locked, was it one of those, what was keeping it from opening all the way?
It was a chain high up.
Okay. So you're yelling into this apartment, what happens next?
I identify myself as a police officer, or that we're with the Albuquerque police, and I'm yelling at this person named Jessica to come out to us. And I continuously make announcements, and then I hear that somebody from below yelling at us, that's her, or something like that, not completely verbatim. So I look from my position on the second floor down into the grass in front of the apartment, and I see the same exact female I just saw at the front door now walking through the grass in front of the apartment complex.
At this point, was Officer Landavazo on scene with you and Enyard?
I saw Officer Mark Landavazo downstairs. Yes, he was in the grass area.
So at this point, is she placed into handcuffs?
I requested that she was placed under arrest. Yes.
What happened then?
I noticed that Officer Mark Landavazo approached her and requested that she be compliant in being arrested, and that she was giving him some kind of trouble, so I went down to assist him.
When you went downstairs, what happened?
We forcibly put her into handcuffs.
What did you hear while that was going on?
Once we put her into handcuffs, I heard the fire alarm in the apartment we were just at going off.
In 808?
In 808, yes.
What did you do then?
I immediately ran upstairs and kicked the door open because we still had not found the child.
When you first entered 808, did you smell anything?
I smelled smoke.
Tell us what you saw.
I immediately entered and saw a kitchen in front of me, and I noticed that something was possibly cooking in the kitchen, and I thought that the smoke could have come from that, but I didn't see smoke billowing out of it, so I didn't have a cause for the smoke at this time. But we still hadn't found this child, who was a priority in my head, so we began to do a protective sweep of the apartment.
Tell us about how you went about doing a sweep. Is there a method to that, or?
Yes, you take the closest rooms, each individually.
And while you were in the living room, did you notice if things were in disarray or if they were orderly?
Yes, I noticed all kinds of stuff on the living room floor, although I don't know exactly how it would always be.
And did you find this child?
I eventually found the child. I searched her bedroom for her, and she was not in there, and then I searched the bathroom, and I found her in the bathtub.
And what did you see?
I saw that she was dismembered and she was on fire.
May I approach her? You may. Sergeant, I'm going to show you what's been marked as, what number are we on? I'm sorry.
I think you're on 353.
353. It states 353 for identification. Do you recognize this envelope I'm showing you?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that?
I signed this envelope.
Okay, and this envelope contains a flash drive with your lapel video.
It does.
Your Honor, the state would move for admission, states 353.
No objection.
353 will be admitted and you may publish.
The victims will be billed in for parking for 7, parking for
Albuquerque Police. Hi. What's going on?
I don't know, this is my center.
Okay.
And she came in and she was like asking me if I believe in God and stuff like that, and I said yes. And she took an iron and she hit me in the head, and then she just kept hitting me, and she started beating the shit out of me.
Who is this that did this?
Still there. Just because my daughter's supposed to be in there, but when I left to come here, she said my daughter's dead.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay, your daughter?
Yeah.
Who was your daughter?
And
Okay. Who's Jessica?
she's
Just a friend?
yeah.
Okay, what apartment were you in? Okay.
Everybody's looking at us.
Okay, was she hitting your daughter?
Let me pause just for one moment there. When you asked if Jessica was just a friend, did both the female and the male answer yes to you?
Is that what they said in the video?
Well, I'm asking you if that's what you remember. Do you remember them both answering yes? Do you want me to rewind it just a little bit?
You can if you want, but I don't remember exactly the details on that.
Let's play it again.
And then, but when I left to come here, she said my daughter's dead.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay, your daughter? Who was your daughter?
And
Okay. Who's Jessica?
she's
Just a friend?
yeah.
Okay, what apartment were you in? Okay.
Everybody's looking at us.
Okay, was she hitting your daughter at all?
Did that help refresh your memory?
Yes, it sounds like I prompted them.
And who responded yes?
I think it was Michelle.
Did the defendant also respond yes?
I think he did.
I don't know any else. I don't know.
Okay, who else was in there?
Just her. As far as I know.
Alright.
You get ready to go to the victims in 4-6. Do you have an evidence or do you want to? Just request.
Go ahead.
So at this point, had you already seen, was this before or after the door where you saw, who we now know as Jessica Kelly, kind of open the door and then shut it?
Right.
So this is after that?
Yes, she opened the door, came out, and then ran back inside.
So that happened before you hit the top landing
I think it happened just right there.
right there?
Hey, who opened the door?
It's going to be in part 406 or 407.
Jessica, come open the door to the Albuquerque Police.
Miss.
Hey, put her in custody. Put her in custody. That's the one that locked the door. Stop flipping. Stop flipping. Hold on. Why'd you lock the door? Okay. Down. Keep going. Do the child 10-7 times. Where are you? Doesn't matter, just pull her. Just pull her. Just pull her down. Just put that matter.
When you first walked into 808, you described earlier that you smelled some smoke. Was that heavy smoke or?
What do you mean by petty smoke?
Was it thick in the air, or was it just kind of that smell?
It was pretty thick.
And we saw you saying 10-7. What does 10-7 mean?
10-7 is code for out of service, and we use it as slang to say somebody is dead or something is dead.
We saw you get down to the bottom of the stairs, and this is probably an obvious question, but was that a little bit of a difficult moment right there?
Absolutely.
We also saw you, at this point, lots of photographs from the scene have been admitted, but we see you pick something up and take it into the bathroom. Tell us what you were doing with that.
That was a sheet I found discarded on the floor, and I used that to extinguish her body.
When you saw the child in the bathtub, did you see any blood or bleeding?
I saw very little blood and no bleeding.
Was that lack of bleeding a significant thing to you in that moment?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
It means her heart has seized and she is dead.
Did you know that Sergeant Enier went back upstairs to check for a pulse?
I did know that.
What did you think about that?
I thought I was in good faith.
So after you discover Victoria, and you, what is the priority at that moment? Walk us through that a little bit.
Securing the last person that was around her, making sure that they were arrested, and then securing the scene.
Who was that last person that was around her?
Jessica Kelly.
Now, we saw in the video she's having some trouble walking, and she's yelling out. Why not wait for like an ambulance or a wheelchair or something in that moment? What was the urgency with you guys there?
Oftentimes people fake their injuries and then they flee.
And we could hear some of the conversation that you had with her. And let me back up to, who was the other officer helping you escort her to a police car?
I believe that was Mark Landavazo.
And there was some conversation, I believe you asked who was in the apartment with you. What did she say?
She said another guy.
Did you have any interactions with the defendant on trial here, Fabian Gonzales or Michelle Martens, at this scene?
After I initially interviewed them, I believe Mr. Gonzales was placed into the back of my vehicle for about 5 minutes temporarily until they could find a new vehicle to put him inside of.
So aside from what we saw where you encountered them in apartment 407, you didn't talk to them again?
I did not talk to him.
Did a lieutenant show up on scene?
Yes,
Who was that?
that was Glenn St. Ange.
And did you brief him about what happened?
Yes, I did.
Did he make, we've heard what a call out is, but did he make the decision to make that a call out?
I believe so.
How did you ensure that no one went in or out of the apartment after you and Officer Enier and appropriate medical staff had exited?
I don't know if it was me, but somebody assigned Officer Lorenzo Apodaca to guard the entrance to the apartment.
And were you part of the homicide briefing in the crime van?
I was a part of it.
And did you give a brief to the people that came to the call out, the detectives and all the personnel that arrived?
I did.
And was that done separately from Sergeant Eniert's briefing to them?
Yes.
Do you remember about what time you concluded your time on this call?
I don't remember exactly, but it was around 11 a.m.
And did you have any follow-up investigation, or were you part of any follow-up investigation yourself on this case?
No, ma'am.
Do you see the person that you encountered in 407 that was identified as Fabian Gonzales in the courtroom here today?
Yes, I do.
Where, can you tell us where he's sitting and identify him for the record by an article of clothing?
He's sitting at this table, and he's got glasses on his face that are protective wear.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the sergeant has identified the defendant?
The record also reflects.
May I have a moment?
You may.
Just one final question, Sergeant. You said that after we see you leaving on your lapel, did you ever go back inside that apartment?
I don't remember going back in after I went back to my vehicle. No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Cross.
Sorry.
Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning.
Just a few questions.
Yes, sir.
So at 4:36 on the 24th, you were dispatched to this apartment complex. Is that right?
That's right.
Now your lapel doesn't have audio right at the beginning. Is that normal for it, or?
That's typically normal, especially on the older models. There's a 30-second buffer.
There's a buffer before that it's already recording before you turned it on.
Correct.
Okay. Now, during that part of it, as I understand it, a lady had called dispatch saying that two of her...
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay?
I don't believe it's testimonial.
Well, here says, come on up.
So in any event, you were, your initial thought was that this was an aggravated assault.
That's correct.
And Officer Inyard arrived within minutes of you, or seconds perhaps.
True.
Okay. Did you notice on your video that the sprinklers were on? Do you have a memory of the sprinklers being on?
I don't have a memory of that.
Okay. Now, it looks like you went straight to 407 where the call had originated. Is that what happened?
Yes.
And you saw that person pointed to the man and woman who we see in the video. Did you see someone else at the front door, or how did you get from the outside to seeing these two people?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, did the caller point to the male and the female that were standing inside?
Yes.
Okay. And you saw both were covered with blood.
Yes.
And the female had an injury to her head with blood on the front of her clothing.
Yes.
Now, you learned that there had been a fight with another female named Jessica.
Yes.
And you sort of prompted, is that a friend? And you recalled Michelle saying yes, but Fabian may have agreed as well.
Yes.
Okay. Now, she had expressed to you that her young daughter was still in the apartment with Jessica. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember her saying, she told me she was dead or something like that?
I do.
And that caused you to be concerned. Your number one concern at that point is finding that young daughter, wasn't it?
Yes.
Now, as you were approaching, or right on the top landing, is when the person we now know as Jessica came out and then came back in. And you agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, now you were wearing your badge of office. I mean, we can only see a silhouette of you, but you had your uniform, and it was clear that you were a police officer, wasn't it?
Correct.
And after she latched the door, you identified yourself as a police officer and wanted her to open the door, didn't you?
I did.
Now, as that door, there was a little bit of a give, but you couldn't really see what was going on in there because there was a wall where the door is, wasn't there?
Yes.
So you couldn't see what she was doing in the rest of the apartment, could you?
Correct.
Okay. So you yelled her name, Jessica, and told her that you were the police and opened the door. You did that, didn't you?
Yes.
And do you remember the next thing you hear that caused you to look down the stairwell? What was the next thing?
Yes, people downstairs were telling me something like, that's her.
Now, could you tell from what direction? Was she coming from the left side or the right side of the building as you saw her?
She was coming from the north side of the building, which if you were looking face onto the building, that would be the left side.
So if you're looking at the building and this is their door, then she's coming from this way around your left side behind you, roughly, depending on your direction. But
I was facing the doorway, and she was coming around the same side
okay,
of that
understood.
apartment.
Now, you ran to help Officer Landavazo stop Jessica.
Yes.
And you had to forcibly arrest her, didn't you?
Correct.
And just while you were in the process or just finished cuffing her, that's the first time you heard the fire alarm go off, isn't it?
While I was on scene, yes.
All right. And you never removed those fire alarms, and to your knowledge, none of the other officers who were immediately there removed the alarms, did they?
No.
They were still going on for some time before. Do you know when they stopped?
I do not know when they stopped.
But they were going on for quite a while, weren't they?
They were.
Now, after you busted through the door, did you see any deadly weapons, knives, axes?
I wasn't looking for deadly weapons at that time.
Okay. Your primary concern was the child, and you didn't want her to be hurt by the fire. Isn't that true?
That's absolutely correct.
Did you notice, how many areas of fire did you notice on her body?
I noticed fire on her body.
Okay. In more than one main area, or?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. You knew there was nothing you could do for her because there was no blood, didn't you?
I knew that, yes.
Now, did she say that someone had pushed her or something like that from the balcony?
Jessica Kelly?
Yes.
Yes, she said something like that.
And she also told you there was another man in the apartment, didn't she?
Correct.
To your knowledge, did you see another man throw her?
I did not see another man throw her.
And was there another man there when you closed off the apartment? Was there ever another man found?
I never saw another man there.
Thank you.
Redirect?
No, Your Honor.
It is, witness be excused.
You may.
Thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
Next witness.
May we approach him?
Sure. We'll see you at 1. Thank you.